Hey guys, I got a request to do a tutorial on Sorcs in Aion Classic. As many of you know, Sorcs in Aion Classic differ quite a bit from Aion Retail. And some players are kind of struggling with that, especially since right now with the stigma system, we can only unlock 2 of the greater stigmas, so we can't really do a greater stigma chain to get the really good moves such as flame spray or sleep storm, etc. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the stigmas. I'm saving that for a different video, but I will just show you what I've been running as a level 50 Sorc and what's been working for me. I apologize in advance if my stats seem low to some players. I've mained a Gladian and a Templar for the last 12 plus years on Aion Retail, and I always had a Sorc to kind of dabble with, but I didn't play a real hardcore, so I'm still kind of learning everything about Sorcs myself. But I'm going to try to share as much information as I can and kind of show you guys what to go for. So the first thing you need to know about Sorcs is they are known as a glass cannon. This means they do a ton of damage. Even if you don't have very great gear, they're going to do a ton of damage. So as you get better gear and you start to sock and enchant your gear, you're going to see your DPS numbers just fly through the roof. You're going to be able to one-shot players in PvP that aren't very geared. It is amazing to see how OP Sorcs are. But then there's the other side of the story where Sorcs are squishy. They are very squishy. They don't have much HP, and if it isn't for Stone Skin being up, most classes would probably one-shot them. So if a Sorc, you always want to play with the terrain and to try to keep max distance from your opponents if you can. That's rule number 1. You don't want people to catch up to you. You don't want people to catch you, period, or get you locked down or ankle snared or anything. So if you're in a group, you want to stay towards the back or stay in the middle of the group. You want, in PvP, you want other players to be targeting your teammates. You don't want to be targeting yourself. And there's a couple things you can do that. You can always use Blind Leap, which teleports you backwards quite a bit, 15 meters from your target. From where you're standing, which will make anyone targeting you lose track of you. They'll have to re-tab to reselect you. That again has its up and down, because if you are grouped with a healer and they're trying to heal you, let's say they're selecting on me right now, they're about to heal me, they're almost done with the cast, and I go and I hit Blind Leap and their heal goes off, their heal is gonna go back and heal the cleric instead of me, because when you Blind Leap, it removes you from everyone's target. So be very careful when you use Blind Leap. You might want to communicate openly with your cleric, see what their tactic is, what they cast on you, what they're running for their heal spec and everything. If they're just casting flash heal on you, most times it's going to hit before you hit Blind Leap, but rely on your clerics, communicate with them, try to figure out what they're doing before you spam this skill every time you get hit. Another thing to notice for Sorcs is Boon of Peace. Lower levels, this works great. If you're in a group and you're aiming on a monster and you have aggro and you want the aggro to go to someone else, you just make sure that you're within 5 meters, so you wait until the mob gets right up to you, and then you hit Boon of Peace. Now, it's misinformation that this goes 15 meters. When you hit it, you'll see it's a huge area it shows, but it actually only affects things within 5 meters, which can be seen when you're targeting a mob. See on the right hand side here, it says the distance 10 meters, 5 meters, 0 meters, etc. So you want to be within 5 meters before you hit this. And what it does is anything within that 5 meter range will have that little aura around them for a split second that you saw, and they basically lose target of you or will lose enmity towards you. It's best to use this as soon as possible when the mob gets on you, and then afterwards just kind of slow your DPS, switch over to just using dots or low hit skills until whoever's supposed to be tanking gains aggro back. And it never hurts if it's a mob that you know you can run in on and they don't do AoEs, they're not going to do splash damage to you. It's a good idea every now and then just to run in, hit boon a piece, just to make sure you're not pulling aggro if you're kind of heavy hitting Sorc. So that's another great tool we have in our arsenal. There's a lot of other skills too. I'm going to try to go through some of them and show you a couple rotations that I use. But for now, let's look at the stats. So for Sorcs, we want to go to our profile, which you hit P to open up. And you can see my stats here on the right hand side. You have your HP, your MP, and then these stats, just ignore these for now. These agility, precision, knowledge, will. Those stats don't really come into play until a much further patch down the road, which we're not even sure Aion Classic is ever even going to hit that. So ignore those. And with these, also, if no one's ever shown you, you can hover over any of these green or red numbers. If you have red numbers while you're in combat, you'll see they'll turn red if you have a debuff. And what it does is that first number there, that 3370, that is my base HP. That's how much HP I have without any equipment or buffs on me. And the second one is how much HP I get in addition to my original HP with all the equipment I'm wearing, whatever foods or scrolls or buffs are on me. So they're two different numbers, and add together they give you the total that gets displayed, and that works for all stats. So Sorcs, what we want to look at is we're going to ignore attack, ignore accuracy. Basically, we're ignoring everything on this very first page here in the bottom right, because in Aion Classic it displays the melee stats, and we don't want to see that. We want to go to the second page here by clicking this little arrow, and let me get to it. If you just click it once, it'll take you to the second page. There's a third page with defense stats, and then it cycles back to the first page of the physical stats, but we want the second page. So a Sorc's best friend is magic boost. You're gonna want to stack magic boost the most you can. The more magic boost, the better. There is a cap on magic boost and a soft cap. For those that don't know, soft cap is how much you can stack in PvE before you get deteriorate return on it. For example, X amount of magic boost will give you X amount of damage. But once you hit this, what's called a soft cap in PvE, then X amount of magic boost will give you Y damage, and Y is less than X. So it starts to taper off after a little bit, but with this current patch, don't worry about that. Don't hyper focus on that. Odds are you're not going to hit that soft cap with this patch. Next patch is going to be a different story, but we'll worry about that when that happens. So magic boost is what your skills use to base their damage off of. Second, we have magic accuracy. Magic accuracy is the chance to hit your spells to hit or your CC to land on your target, and this is based off of your target's magic defense. So as long as you have magic accuracy that's higher than the defense that you're going against, you're more likely to land your hits. So magic accuracy is kind of important, but with this patch you shouldn't have to stack too much of it for PvE or any of it, to be honest, if you have decent equipment. Only in PvP are you going to have to really worry about magic accuracy, and we'll get to that later. Magic crit is the odds that your spells will hit a crit, do crit damage. There is no crit effect for CCing, it's only for damage, and it greatly increases the damage. Once again, this patch, you can't get that much magic crit. I wouldn't waste my time trying to socket magic crit stones or get magic crit gear, because you just can't get enough to really make a huge difference in this version of the game. You can get magic crit scrolls, which boost your magic crit by quite a bit. Kinda helps a little in PvE, PvP not so much. I'll leave that up to you guys to decide if you think it's worth it or not. Personally, I don't waste my Kina on it. I don't believe until we can start getting much larger numbers that it's worth doing. Healing boost, you don't have to worry about. That's more of a cleric enchanter thing. Your cast speed is how fast you can cast a spell. The lower the number, the better. So as you can see, mine is 0.8 with a cast speed spell book. And if I switch to an orb that does not have cast speed, it goes up to 0.9. So the 0.9 is going to take longer to cast a spell than the 0.8. You want faster cast speed if you can get it. The more cast speed, the better. So when you are getting gear, what you want to look for is either a spell book, tome, or orb that has cast speed on it. That's the best you can get. You want cast speed. Can't drill that enough. I know I'm saying it a lot, but it's that important. So look for cast speed weapons, and you also cast speed gloves. You have to be very careful while leveling a Sorc, because you will see they have attack speed gloves and cast speed gloves that we can wear. Even if the cast speed gloves are a lower level, you're still going to want to choose the cast speed over the attack speed gloves. Or there's also what is it called, Sunrise? Yes, the Sunrise set. The gloves from DC don't have cast speed. They have a ton of magic boost on them, which makes them really tempting, but losing that cast speed makes it so it's not worth it. You want to stick with cast speed the best you can. So make sure you're going for as much cast speed as possible. These resistances, just ignore them for now. They do play a bigger part as more patches come out, but for this current patch, it's not gonna make or break the game. It's not really worth worrying about. So I will tell you right now, I do run DC, ADMA, all the in-game content with these stats, and I do just fine. Oftentimes I'm towards the top of the DPS meter, if not the top of the DPS meter. I hold my own just fine soloing, PvP as well. I do pretty well. Making sure I have my actual PvE set on right now, because I do have multiple sets. Yep. So these stats are fine for me. I do a lot of damage with this much magic boost, this much magic accuracy. I'd say it's pretty good. When I do Bakarma and we get to the elite ads that he summons, I only get resistant maybe once out of 10 attempts. It's not that much. Personally, I'd rather get this to a nice round number of 1200 or more. I'm currently working on that, because I don't want to get resisted at all, but I don't want to sacrifice too much magic boost. But you can do in-game instances with 1167 magic accuracy, which is, I have no magic accuracy Sakte, I believe. Oh, I guess I have a little bit, just 2 stones right there. But the rest I have gone magic boost or trash flight time ones when I was broke and didn't have Kina to toss better stones in. And I do use a spell book mostly, and that does give you a lot more magic accuracy base. As we can see here, see the base on jewel, this jewel here is 299 compared to a tome where it's 360. That's quite a bit difference, and these are both level 46 weapons technically, so it's a huge difference. Tomes and spellbooks will have higher magic accuracy than magic boost than the orb. As for the orb though, orbs give you more magic boost. It's a lot more damage it gives you, but less magic accuracy. So you're going to have to kind of decide which do you want to worry about stacking. Do you want to worry about stacking mana stones for magic accuracy or magic boost at some point in the game? I recommend always going with magic boost, and I just rock a tome. It makes up the difference in my opinion when I do the math on some of the equipment that I'm aiming to get. Another question I get often is, what is magic attack? Let me see if either of these weapons have it on here. So neither of these have magic attack on them as a bonus stat, but there are some equipment out there that does have magic attack on it. Let's see if I can find you an example real quick here. Just give me one sec. So here we go. I had to do some digging. There are some orbs and tomes in the game that give you magic boost and magical attack, or just magical attack. Magical attack affects your auto attack. That's when you go up to a mob or a player and you try to weave by hitting your auto attack like this. I'm not using any skills. I'm just hitting C on my keyboard because that's the default auto attack. Or if I were to just, let me just stop that. If I just double click on it, it'll start auto attacking. That's what magical attack affects. It's not the best stat. It's not one as Sorcs you have to worry about. You shouldn't be weaving that much, especially if you're running an orb, because orbs have a lot less range for auto attack. Like for example, I'm using a tome right now, which I believe is 15 meters I can auto attack from. Then if I switch to my orb, the auto attack, let's see here. Yeah, the auto attack for orb is you have to be right next to the mob. So I don't really worry about magic attack. Aim for that magic boost and magic accuracy stats. Those are the ones you really want. Next, let's go over the robes. There are 3 robes that we use as Sorcs. Robe of Flame, Robe of Earth, Robe of Cold. The first one, Robe of Flame, increases your magic boost. So this means when this buff is on you, it is going to increase your magic boost by 112 points. That's a pretty good chunk. So it's going to increase your damage that you do with your spells. It does not affect CC. It is magic boost only. Like I said earlier, magic boost only affects damage. The second option is Robe of Earth, which increases your natural mana treatment by 56. Fire resist by 35, R resist by 35. So it gives you some elemental defense, which again, I'm going to say don't worry about that. Don't hyper fixate on that this patch. It's not a big deal. PvP, it plays a little bit of a factor, but not enough at this early in the game that it matters that much. So natural mana treatment though is a biggie. Your natural mana treatment is how much you regenerate mana while basically just doing anything. So for example, I'm going to use some mana here. So I'm down to 105, and as you see, it ticked right away to 219 because of my natural mana. So now every 5 seconds or so, my mana is going to start to restore by itself. Even though I'm not using any skills, I'm not using pots or anything. That is because of the natural mana treatment. So pairing this robe of Earth, with something like juice or food that also increases your natural mana treatment, will increase the amount of mana that you reobtain just for playing the game. Like, you don't even have to be resting. It can be during combat. You'll notice that your MP starts going up. The higher the natural mana treatment, the better. So that's always a good thing to go for. If you're going to be in a really long instance or a really long boss fight, I almost always go with Robe of Earth, so I can manage my mana a lot better without having to use pots non-stop. So Robe of Earth, really good. Robe of Flame is more for burst damage if it's going to be a quick fight, or if the boss is down to 10% and 4 out of 6 of your teammates are down and you just want to burn them real quick, maybe switch over to Robe of Flame just to get that last bit of damage in to really blow them up. The last one, Robe of Cold. This one is good and bad for kiting elite mobs if you're soloing. I'll get into that in a second. Mostly Robe of Cold is used in PvP. And the reason for that is whenever an enemy attacks you within 30 meters, you reflect some damage back to them, which is good. You're dealing a low damage, especially against Sins. If a Sin hits Flurry and then comes at you and he's auto-attacking a lot, he's going to reflect a lot of damage back to himself. I've actually seen some sins kill themselves off of this. They don't have much HP, they're in bad gear, they're not doing much damage to me, but because of their auto attack and they're already low on HP because they've been PvPing or what have you, have actually killed themselves on me, which always makes me smile. It really does. It also slows down the movement speed for 4 seconds. So it's like having an extra slow to your arsenal to anything that attacks you, which is great for kiting or if you want to interrupt them and move around while they're slowed so you can outpace them. It's a great thing to toss on if you're PvPing and you're trying to get away. Maybe you were running Robe of Flame so you could try to blow someone up. Something didn't go right. You need to get away. Switch over to Robe of Cold while you're running away. So as they're attacking you, as you're running away, they're getting slowed. You can move away faster. Same thing works for mobs. If a mob hits you with this on, it's going to slow them. It's going to do a little damage, but mostly it's going to slow them. Now, here's the downside to Robe of Cold. And this really bothers me a lot. This skill is really based on your ping and how good your connection is to the game servers. And the reason I say that is, let's say I have Robe of Cold on, this is a mob, and the mob is attacking me, and I go to CC it. If my CC goes off right when the mob hits me, and then it takes a split second for the effect to go off where it does the reflect damage, the reflect damage will happen after my CC if it's timed perfectly, and because it took damage, it breaks the CC. I know that sounds a little confusing, but I'm sure any Sorc that's played with Robe of Cold knows what I'm talking about. So basically, you have Robe of Cold up, the mob goes to auto attack you right when your CC goes to go off on them, and your CC registers first, so it CCs them, but then the Robe of Cold effect comes up, does damage to them, knocks them out of that CC. It is very annoying when this happens, and it does happen a lot. So I don't always recommend using this for kiting mobs or for PvP where you're trying to 1v1 people and you need to be able to CC them. It's really up the user's discretion, and you're really playing with RNG there. So just be careful with Robe of Cold. So now I'm going to show you another trick about maximizing your opening damage. Now this trick will work wonders for when you're soloing elites or even while you're in PvP. Now first off, if it's something you can kill quick, you want to use Robe of Flame. Now if it's something that's going to take you a while, you probably want to use either Robe of Earth or Robe of Cold. Let's go with Robe of Flame. So what you want to do, let's say this is a mob and he's elite and I want to take him down, but I'm gonna have to kite him around because he's an elite, has a lot of HP. I'm not gonna be able to one-shot him or even 3-shot him for that matter. I'm gonna have to kind of run around with him for a little bit. So what we want to do is we want to maximize our opening burst damage. In order to do that, you want to get your cast speed as fast as possible. So I'm gonna hit a Greater Awakening Scroll, which increases cast speed. Make sure you use an Awakening Scroll and not Courage Scrolls. Courage Scrolls are attack speed. We want cast speed. So I have that running. If I had any candy, I'd use candy as well to increase my cast speed. I don't though. And then if you have socketed any of the stigmas that reduce cast speed, you're gonna hit this to open up with. So Vasal Wisdom is one that I always have socketed. It's a 30-second cooldown. It decreases cast speed by 25% for 15 seconds. It's a pretty good skill. You really should be running this. If you're not, give it a try. I guarantee you'll love it. There's also a Boon of Quickness, but that's a much longer cooldown. It's a faster cast speed, but it's a longer cooldown. You can always run both of them. They do share the same cooldown, kind of though. So if you hit Vasal's Wisdom, you would have to wait until that runs up, then hit Boon of Quickness. When that runs up, you can hit Wisdom again. It basically gives you a good, I think, 30 or 45 seconds of reduced cast speed, which is great for bursting someone down, not so great for your mana pool. It'll really drain you real fast. So kind of up to you guys how you want to play. But I'm going to increase my cast speed, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put delayed effects on the target first, and then from there I'm going to decide what I want to do. So if this is a mob that I know I can take down in about 4 or 5 hits, it's not too tanky, I can burn him before he closes the gap of 25 meters, I'm going to go for the burst damage. So to do that, I hit my Vasals, I'm going to start with Delay Blast, I'm going Lava Tempest, and then I'm going to hit my big hit. And hopefully that would be enough to basically kill them. If not, I can always use a harder hit skill, and hopefully I'll be able to burn them down before they get to me. And that's all there really is to it for burning something down real quick. Now, let's say there was a elite mob that has just a crap ton of HP, and you know you're not going to be able to burn it down before it gets to you. You're going to have to kite around a little bit. Then we're going to change just a little bit. I would still want to use Vasal's Wisdom, open up Delayed Blast, put on Lava Tempest, but instead of hitting with one of my big hits like Inferno here, I'd want to slow them down with Ice Chain. Ice Chain does not do much damage at the higher levels, however it does have a good slowing effect, which is what we are looking for. So, to open up, Vasals, Delayed Blast, Lava Tempest, and then Ice Chain. Now it is slow and I can kite around if I need to. It would have a slow effect, I could kite around, use damage, and Ice Chain lasts basically as long as the cooldown. So it decreases it for 12 seconds, the cooldown's 10 seconds. So as soon as this comes off cooldown, you want to hit it again, and you can just keep kiting and moving around, which really will help you solo mobs a lot better. Another thing while you're kiting around, you kind of have to gauge how fast you can burn them even while kiting. Some mobs you're going to want to use your dots, which would be Flame Cage, Wind Cut Down for the bleed effect, and Erosion. And you just keep rotating those 3 as you're kiting around if you can burn the mob down pretty quick, or you think you can stay with them fairly good. Now if it's a mob that can heal itself or dispel itself, there are some mobs out there that can do that and remove the slow effect from them. If that is possible, then you're going to want to change your tactics a little. You might still want to use Ice Chain, but avoid using dots. And the reason I say that is they might dispel the Ice Chain and start catching up to you. You need to be able to root the mob or CC it quickly so that you can kind of get a gap between you and the mob again and start your rotation all over again. And if you're CCing the mob and using dots, your dots, when they tick, they're going to break the CC. So you really have to kind of gauge how you want to play the situation depending on your target, how fast you can burn them down, how much HP, and how much confidence you have in your movement and your ability to move around the area where you are kiting. There's basically infinite ways to play Sorc. These are just a couple tactics that I really enjoy to use. I really hope this helps you guys out. I'm just going to do one final note and then wrap up this video here. One final note is, I know I said that elemental damage doesn't play a big role this patch, but it does play a little role. And we do have an effect, skill that all Sorcs have called Flame Fusion. And what that does is it decreases the fire resistance of the target. So when you're setting up your chain of skills and your rotations, you want to use Flame Erosion before you use any of your fire-based damage skills. So for example, that would be Flame Fusion, Flame Cage, Flame Harpoon, Flame Bolt, Inferno, Delay Blast. And if you're wondering which skills have fire damage, you can just read the tooltips on them. Like I'm hovering over Delay Blast and it says inflict 677 magical fire damage. Same with Inferno, magical fire damage. Flame Cage, magical fire damage. Flame Bolt, magical fire damage. Flame Harpoon, magical fire damage, so on and so forth. Not all skills are magical fire damage. We do have magical water, magical wind, magical earth. So you kind of have to read through your skills to see which ones are going to do the most damage. And 2 of our DP skills also are magical fire damage. So you always want to prep those with a flame fusion first and then hit one of those, because it's going to do a little bit more damage. Not game breaking, not going to make a huge difference unless you're in a really long boss fight, but it's another way to boost your damage. But that is all that I want to really cover for now. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys want to know about Sorc? What are you struggling with? What kind of situation do you need a rotation for? What do you do yourself for rotations? Or what do you guys run for stigmas? Leave a comment. Let's start a conversation up and help each other out. I hope this video helped you guys. I hope you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share to your fellow Sorc players. And as always, I hope to see you guys in game.